For years, my mom and sister kept pushing me to get back with my ex, claiming he was the one. But they never knew the full story or what I went through. Instead of going back, I moved on. I met someone who truly loves me. Now I'm married and expecting a baby, and it was the best choice I ever made. I walked out of the celebration in tears. The parking lot was dark, my hands shaking with rage, dress catching on my shoes, and all I could think was, they did it again. While everyone clapped and smiled, my sister had seated my husband next to some overly friendly woman. Stunning, loud laughing, and wearing a low-cut dress. When I walked over to their table, she was already whispering something in his ear. It looked exactly like he was her date. I didn't make a scene. I just stood up, grabbed my bag, nodded at the waiter, and left. My husband called me 10 minutes later, just as stunned as I was. But we both knew. This had been planned. Planned by my sister. At her own wedding. My name is Cassie. I'm 36. And yes, I'm pregnant. It's our first daughter, and my husband is someone I love deeply and chose carefully, after years of hard conversations with myself. He's not perfect, but he's kind. He understands boundaries, unlike my family, especially my sister, April. She's 34, and for as long as I can remember, she's believed she knows what's best for me. I used to date her now brother-in-law. I know, it's messy. But back then, it was simple. I was 16, I fell for my brother's best friend. We dated until I turned 18. He proposed. I said no. I wasn't ready. I wanted to go to college, travel. I wanted to be someone before becoming someone's wife. But to April, it was betrayal. She'd created a fantasy in her head. Two sisters, married to two brothers, raising their kids next door, doing Sunday brunches. My refusal shattered that little dream. She never forgave me for it. Since then, she's made it her mission to push me back toward my ex. He became a regular at all family events. Christmas, birthdays, dinners. He was always just around. And I kept quiet. Thought maybe it wasn't worth the drama. But that was before April's wedding. That wedding was the final straw. I told her clearly, if you try anything like that again, I'm done with you. She smiled and nodded, then assigned her bridesmaid, a flirty old college friend, to my husband, set them side by side, and begged me to be her maid of honor. All day long, she kept pushing me into situations with my ex. Oh, you ended up at the same table? What a coincidence. No need to switch seats now. Take a photo together, it's nostalgic. I smiled. I bit my tongue. But inside, I already knew. I didn't have to tolerate this anymore. When I left that night and checked my phone, I had 20 texts from our mom. You overreacted. April didn't mean any harm. Don't ruin her special day. I didn't respond. The next day, I called my dad. Calmly. No drama. I told him everything. He was silent, then said, I didn't realize it had gone this far. It was the first time I felt heard. We agreed I wouldn't ask anyone to take sides, but I also wouldn't be talking to April anymore. And if anyone tried to fix things between us, I'd cut them off too. My brother, who's 40, hesitated at first. It was hard for him to let go of old friendships, especially with my ex. They played basketball together, went fishing. But after seeing me cry in a restaurant parking lot, he just said, I'm with you. And that was enough. 2 days later, April posted a story on Instagram with the caption, some people play the victim so well they forget it's just an act. It was a childhood photo of us. I didn't reply. I already knew. Silence would be my answer. And sometimes silence is louder than any scream. I thought my sister would at least take a break after the wedding. Go enjoy her honeymoon and leave us alone. But a week passed, and it started again. First came the neutral messages from my mom. You have to understand. She just wanted everyone to be happy. Then came vacation photos. My ex was in all of them. There he was, smiling next to my sister and her husband. At the beach, at the table, by the pool. Always the three of them. I didn't respond. My husband was supportive, but I still felt alone. Pregnancy made me vulnerable in a way I hadn't expected. I felt it physically, like every glance or comment could hit me in the stomach. It wasn't hormones, it was anxiety. And honestly, fear. I told a friend about it. She said I was overreacting, that it was just a weird coincidence. But something about the whole thing felt like obsession, an ongoing campaign to pretend nothing had changed, like I was still that teenage girl they could seat next to my ex and wait for magic to happen. Mom kept inviting me over for family tea. I declined every time. First I blamed my health, then my schedule, then I just stopped replying. But one day I gave in. I was feeling okay. It was a good day. She texted that she made my favorite pie, brewed my special mint lavender tea, that she just wanted to talk, said she'd be alone. I went. I knew something was off the moment I got to the house. My sister's car was in the driveway. There were extra shoes in the entryway. I froze. When I opened the living room door, they were all there. My mom, my sister, my ex, and his mother. They sat there in silence. My ex looked like he'd been practicing a speech. His mother clutched an envelope. My sister was dabbing at her eyes like she was prepping for a performance. "You can't be mad at us," my mom began. I said nothing. She handed me a handwritten letter. In it, she admitted that April had crossed a line, but insisted her intentions were good. She said she only wanted my baby to grow up surrounded by love. That since my sister had apologized, I was now obligated to forgive her. Then my ex spoke. Something about fate, timing, second chances. His mom chimed in about deep feelings. And then came April. Teary, scattered, dramatic as ever. She missed me. We used to be best friends. I'd become a stranger. I sat in the chair and said nothing. Inside, everything went quiet. Not empty. Quiet. For the first time, I felt what an ending looks like. Not dramatic, not loud. Cold. Final. Like frozen glass. I took out my phone and texted my husband. They're here. Then my dad. Then my brother. They showed up half an hour later. My brother walked in first, looked around the room, and said just one thing. "What the hell is wrong with you?" Then he picked up my bag, helped me up, and led me to the car. I moved like I was underwater. It wasn't until we were on the highway that I noticed the tears running down my face. My brother held my hand and kept saying, "I'm sorry. I didn't know it was this bad. I'm sorry." That night, my husband and I sat on the bedroom floor in silence. He didn't ask questions, just held me. Then he said, "We need to protect ourselves." And I knew he was right. Silence wasn't working anymore. Hoping they'd stop was naive. They wouldn't. And now I wouldn't either. I was ready to fight. The next morning, I woke up with a firm decision. From now on, everything had to be official. My husband and I found a lawyer. Not to file dramatic lawsuits, just to make sure all communication went through him. So I wouldn't wait by the door for a surprise visit, or open messages from my mom with a sinking feeling, or wonder if I'd hear a familiar voice at the grocery store. The letters were prepared quickly. Notices about unauthorized attempts to contact me. A clear warning that any pressure, manipulation, or surprises would be treated as harassment. We sent them to my sister, my mom, and my ex. It wasn't an ultimatum. It was a boundary. I didn't expect them to take it seriously. But the outcome surprised me. Silence. Almost complete. No blow-ups, no fresh messages. Just a few complaints from mutual acquaintances saying I was being too harsh, that my mother was just worried. I didn't argue. Let her worry. The only thing I cared about now was staying calm. For the baby. My husband surrounded me with care. He cooked, sorted through documents, picked out baby things. Sometimes I'd catch myself waiting for something to go wrong. It felt too peaceful. Too quiet. But the days passed. My belly grew. And the fear began to fade. For the first time in a long while, I started sleeping without nightmares. And that's when it happened. One evening, I was sitting on the floor of the nursery going through the baby shower gifts when I found a strange box. Pretty wrapping, a neat ribbon, a card with no name. I asked my husband if he had brought it. He shook his head. We figured maybe a guest had just forgotten to sign it. I untied the ribbon. Inside was a CD, plain with a printed label. Title, "For Cassie, always." I froze. It looked exactly like the ones I used to make for my ex back in high school. Underneath was a photograph. Old. Faded. The two of us. Me in my school uniform. Him in a t-shirt with our team's logo. Only he and I had that photo. My husband didn't say a word. He stared at the box like it was a snake. I slowly placed the CD back in. At the very bottom was another card. I knew the handwriting instantly. My sister's. It was her gift. A provocation? A sentimental gesture? She had to know how I'd react. She planned this, chose the moment carefully, just when I was starting to feel like life might finally be okay. I stood up, went to the bathroom, closed the door, and stood there, gripping the sink, waiting for the shaking to stop. I didn't cry. I just stood there, trembling with helplessness. I knew things were about to get worse. That this package was just the beginning. that their silence hadn't been acceptance. It was the quiet before a storm. My husband packed everything from the box into a bag and put it in the closet. The next day, we brought it to our lawyer. He nodded and said, "We'll add it to the file, but you need to be ready for their next move." It came faster than we expected. 3 days later, my mother called my dad. She cried, said I was out of control, that I had lost my mind, that she just wanted to be a grandmother. "If she keeps this up," she said, "the baby will grow up without a family." My dad didn't argue. He just sent me the recording of the call. I listened, heart sinking, but I had already made my choice. This wasn't revenge. This was protection. We decided to leave. Not forever, just for a while. A change of scenery. We rented an apartment in a different part of the city, somewhere no one knew us, where I didn't have to fear someone knocking on the door or running into a familiar face in the parking lot. My dad helped. He handled the paperwork, helped us move, even picked up the baby car seat I'd wanted for months but kept postponing. The first few days felt strange. A different smell in the air, unfamiliar street sounds, no recognizable voices. I kept waiting for something to go wrong. I'd check the front door 5 times, reread texts, overanalyze every call. My husband tried to calm my nerves. He made breakfast, played music, rubbed my shoulders. Sometimes it helped. Sometimes it didn't. My sister stayed quiet. That made me more uneasy than any tantrum would have. My mom also stopped calling, but I knew it wasn't peace. When someone's ignored your no for years, silence isn't respect. It's strategy. I started keeping a journal. Every night, short bullet points. What happened? What I felt? What scared me? What made me smile? It helped ground me. Reminded me I wasn't some powerless girl. I was a grown woman with choices, support, and a voice. But it was still hard. Especially when I thought about the baby. I felt guilty, like I'd already failed to give her peace. Like her arrival triggered something ugly in other people. I told my therapist. She said pregnancy didn't cause this. It revealed what was already there. She was right. But that didn't make it easier. A few days later, we went shopping for baby supplies. Lists, baskets, bottles, swaddles. Everything felt normal, until I noticed someone staring. A woman, maybe in her 40s, was watching us between aisles. Then she walked up and asked if I was Cassie. I froze. She mentioned my sister by name and said she was worried sick and just wanted to be there. I turned and walked out. My husband caught up with me in the parking lot. I didn't cry. I just felt cold. My whole body tensed like I'd been slapped. After that, we took it up a level. Changed our phone numbers, gave our new address only to our lawyer. Even delivery orders went under my dad's or brother's name. I started feeling like a fugitive. A pregnant fugitive hiding from her own mother and sister. Then came my husband's birthday. A quiet dinner at home, a few candles, just close friends. We kept it offline. No photos, no stories. Still, someone found out. The next day, my sister-in-law forwarded me a screenshot. My mom had left a comment on someone else's post. Sometimes the cruelest people are the ones smiling in family pictures. It wasn't just a jab. It was an attack. I deleted my account. Completely. No explanations, no rebuttals. I was done playing this shadow war. We started looking for a new place. Far away. Ideally, in another state. I knew it was a drastic move, but it felt like the only one left. Dad supported us completely. So did my brother. They promised to protect us no matter what, but understood why we no longer believed in just talk to her. Sometimes I think about how easily I used to forgive. How I kept hoping people would change simply because they were family. But now I know. Being related doesn't make someone safe. I spent a long time debating whether I should speak up. Not with my husband. We talked about everything. Not with my dad. He'd seen it all firsthand. I mean, publicly. Out loud. To step out of the quiet space I'd been hiding in for months and call things what they really were. The decision didn't come suddenly. It built up, piece by piece. Every time mutual friends messaged me, asking why I had distanced myself from family. Every time my mom left another strange comment under my friends' posts. Every time someone said, "She just wants to see her granddaughter," and then fell silent when I didn't respond. I was tired of the distorted version of the story they were spreading. In their version, I was the selfish, dramatic one who'd been brainwashed by my husband. My mom was the poor grandmother, just trying to be involved. My sister, tragically cut off from her niece. My ex, the heartbroken one that got away. I wrote a post. Long, calm. No yelling, no insults. Just facts. A timeline. What happened. How I felt. what steps I took, why I pulled away, why I wasn't interested in reconciliation anymore. I posted it in the evening, closed my laptop, went to bed expecting nothing, and woke up in a different world. My inbox was flooded. Messages, reposts, comments. People, friends and total strangers, shared their own stories. They thanked me for speaking out, condemned my family's behavior, told me this wasn't normal and that I was doing the right thing by protecting myself and my baby. I hadn't expected support. I expected backlash. But instead, I got empathy. And suddenly, relief. My sister deleted her social media the next day. My ex didn't. He started telling people that none of it was true, that we were still together until the end. And even that, the baby was probably his. Yes, he went that far. My husband found out first. He didn't say anything to me, just contacted our lawyer and my ex's employer. My ex worked in a nonprofit that supported women, and now everything he said and did was a liability. And not just for us, but for his career. 2 days later, he was suspended, temporarily pending internal investigation. But we already knew how it would end. Meanwhile, my mom lost it. She lashed out at my dad, threatened legal action, demanded visitation, called him dozens of times a day. He moved in with us, slept in the guest room, walked the dog, read books on the porch. Quiet, tired, sad. He told me he felt like a traitor for not seeing how bad things had gotten. I didn't blame him. He chose a side. And not just chose. He stayed. He saw me waking up at 3 a.m. in a panic. Changed diapers when I was too exhausted, made soup, took phone calls, shielded me. The birth was getting closer. And with it came a sharp awareness that my life was now split into before and after. Before was survival. After had to be protection. One night I dreamed of my mother. She was standing at the door saying something, but I couldn't hear the words, just her eyes, accusing, empty. And in that moment I knew. I'd already said goodbye. To the mother I thought I had. The one who maybe once loved me. Now I had to focus on making sure I never became her. On not hurting my daughter the way I had been hurt. It happened in the middle of the day, when I came home alone. My husband was at a meeting, my dad and brother were out, and I felt calm until I saw my mother's car in the driveway. I stopped the car at the curb. My heart was pounding in my throat. Someone was inside the house. Not a delivery person, not a neighbor. Them. I didn't go in. I called my husband, my brother, and my sister-in-law. I said, "They're at our place." My sister-in-law arrived first. I stood at the end of the street watching her walk calmly to the front door and knock. A minute later, the door opened. My mom stepped out. Behind her, my sister. The same sister who had claimed for months that she had stopped trying. Her face was angry. She said something, but I couldn't hear. My sister-in-law told them that if they didn't leave immediately, she would call the police for unlawful entry. Then my brother arrived. And then, my husband. They stood on either side of me. My mom looked at me and suddenly started crying. My sister yelled something about my husband tearing the family apart. I turned away and didn't look back. They left, but not for good. The next day, my doctor called. He said my blood pressure had spiked dramatically after the incident. My readings had worsened. He was calm but firm. Another major stress event could put the baby at risk. That same day, my dad, brother, husband, and uncle went to my mother's house. They packed up every last thing that belonged to us. Documents, leftover items, photos. They revoked her access to anything tied to our lives. Everything that could be taken was. My dad told her that there would be no more visits, no more calls, no more holidays if she ever came near our family again. She screamed, threatened legal action, said, "I can't be the kind of grandmother who watches from a distance." But no one was listening anymore. My sister was there too. She walked up to my husband and started accusing him of manipulation, saying I had changed, that he had broken me. He stood still, then said, "She finally became herself." That's what you can't stand. He walked away without another word. That evening, I sat alone in the kitchen. No crying, no spiraling thoughts, just stillness. I held a warm mug in the dim light and listened to my own heartbeat. Steady, strong, certain. That same night, our lawyer sent out official cease and desist letters. To my mother, my sister, my ex. From now on, any attempt to contact us would be treated as a legal violation, with lawsuits to follow. We had everything. Documented incidents, medical records, witnesses. This was no longer emotional warfare. This was legal protection. The next day, my dad brought over a box. Inside were old letters, cards, and drawings I'd made for my mom and sister. He placed it gently on the table and said, "You don't have to keep this." But I couldn't throw it away either. The choice is yours. I looked at the box but didn't open it. I just closed the lid with both hands. I didn't need reminders. I already knew everything I needed to know. The house felt quieter after that. No one came. No one knocked. No messages. It felt like it was over. But it wasn't relief. It was a pause. My dad stayed with us. He said he couldn't live with a woman who had nearly destroyed her own daughter. He slept in the guest room, walked the dog, talked to the baby who hadn't even been born yet. He'd put his hand on my stomach and whisper, "You're safe now. You'll never know fear inside your family. I promise you that." And for the first time in a very long time, I believed him. The birth went smoothly. Not perfectly, not like in the movies, but without complications. I held her in my arms, looked into that tiny face, and everything else vanished. No threats, no letters, no fear. Just the gentle weight of a new life, untouched by pain, untouched by guilt. We gave her a name we never discussed with anyone. We didn't ask for approval, didn't take a poll. It was our decision. Our choice. The first of many. For her. My husband held my hand almost the entire time. His voice was the first she heard, and my tears, the first drops on her forehead. I didn't cry from pain. I cried because I made it. We made it. The first few weeks passed quietly. My mother-in-law came over to help, sometimes stayed the night in the guest room. My brother and his wife brought food. The nieces and nephews made a big card. "Welcome, little one." Even the dog seemed to know someone special had arrived. I thought things had calmed down, that maybe, just maybe, my mom had realized her tactics hadn't worked. But no. A month later, my dad received a letter from her lawyer. She was petitioning for grandmother visitation rights. She claimed I was mentally unstable, living under my husband's control, that my dad had stolen her property, and that the family had robbed her of her purpose in life. We handed the letter to our lawyer. He said it was a completely baseless case, but warned us. They wouldn't stop. Not out of love, out of control. That night, I wrote a second post. More direct. No shame. I didn't just talk about myself. I spoke about how boundaries of adult children are so often ignored, how people hide behind family values to bulldoze others' choices. The post spread even faster than the first. My sister disappeared again. But her husband started calling my brother. Threatening, begging, complaining that we'd ruined his job, that their son was suffering, that we had no right to destroy a real family. My brother didn't argue. He just recorded the calls, sent them to our lawyer, and then blocked every number. Soon we heard something new. My nephew had started acting out, calling other kids names, saying my daughter was illegitimate, that she didn't have a real dad. We realized my sister and mother hadn't stopped. They had simply started using a child as a weapon. That was the bottom. My dad tried one last conversation with my sister. She shrugged and said, "Kids just speak the truth." So he told her he was cutting off all contact until the situation changed. I didn't feel triumphant. This wasn't a win. This was a funeral for something I used to believe in. Hope, trust, illusions. The day we found out, my husband threw me a little celebration. Just at home. No reason. Dinner, candles, a warm blanket. He said, "You're a mom now. A real one. Not someone living in someone else's shadow. You're the one creating light." I held on to those words because they felt true. I no longer wait for someone to change. I don't wake up with dread. I don't flinch at names on my phone. I feed, sing, hold, and build something new. Without the things that once broke me. Sometimes it still hurts, but pain isn't poison. It's a scar. And scars mean you survived. A few months passed. We moved into a new house, not too far, but far enough that no one knew the address. My dad moved into the guest house he helped us renovate. We agreed to live close, but with space. That turned out to matter more than we expected. Life became quieter, more stable. No more panic, no more sleepless nights. Our daughter was growing, changing by the day, learning to smile, grab fingers, recognize our voices. Sometimes I looked at her and caught myself wanting to tell my mom. Not the one who sued us, not the one who showed up uninvited. The one I remembered from childhood, with warm hands, a soft blanket, and lullabies at night. But then I remembered everything else, and stopped myself. Sometimes we gathered as a family. My brother, his wife, their kids, my mother-in-law. We had brunches, played with the children, took pictures. Not for social media, for ourselves, for this new present. For the first time, family gatherings didn't feel like pressure. My sister didn't poison the air. My mom wasn't trying to take over. They simply weren't there. My nephew on my sister's side now met with my dad only on neutral ground. My sister refused to share their address, afraid we'd show up unannounced. As if anyone planned to. My dad still helped with the boys' schooling. He couldn't not help. But he did it without illusions now. Clear, distant, scheduled. Like a man who had paid for his mistakes and didn't intend to make them again. In May, my dad officially filed for divorce. My mom was furious. She sent letters, contacted lawyers, wrote to his friends. We saved everything. But no one answered. He was calm. He said he felt free for the first time in decades. When I heard that, I cried. But not from pain, from relief for him. We didn't say it aloud, but we all knew. He became the best grandfather because he no longer had to be a failing husband. My mother-in-law also became part of our foundation. She stayed over sometimes, helped with the baby, brought books, dresses, pies. She always asked permission, never imposed. That was new to me. Care without intrusion. The summer passed gently. We walked, took small trips, hosted indoor camping parties for the kids. Tents in the living room, pillows everywhere. The kids called our daughter their main mission, building forts around her and guarding her like she was royalty. I watched them and thought, maybe I did it. I broke the chain. I didn't pass down the pain that was handed to me. I stopped it. My ex didn't resurface. After losing his job, he tried contacting our lawyer again. Strange, messy letters. I didn't read them. They went straight to the archive. My lawyer said, "All he has left is a memory you no longer share." I nodded. That was enough. One evening, while I was cooking dinner, my husband walked up behind me and said, "I know it still hurts." I didn't answer. He added, "But you don't live in it anymore, and that's your power." He was right. I hadn't forgotten. I hadn't completely let go. But I endured. I'm not a victim.